And welcome again to another edition of the Twins Weekend Wrap with the television play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Twins, Dick Bremer. I am Derek Hansen, brought to you by Jefferson Lines. Well, we won't talk about the rain yesterday and all the delays that went along with that, or Friday night's mess of a game with all the errors, but let's focus on the positivity of Saturday's game. Dick, how about Jake Odorizzi? If he can pitch that well for the Twins, it's really going to help them out in 2019.
Yeah, it's been outstanding. He's really developed into a consistent pitcher, which, of course, Twins are looking for, consistency in the starting rotation. He took it upon himself to do a lot of work in the off season in terms of making some mechanical adjustments. And he's taken the tutelage of Wes Johnson, the pitching coach. I think we've seen him throw harder than he did at any time last year. And he's really been, probably over the last month or so, probably the Twins' best starting pitcher.
Yeah, no question. And you think about that, that's a pretty heady considering that you do have Jose Barrios, really being the ace of this team, right?
Well, and when you think of what he did in New York against the Yankees, and his two prior starts were against the Astros, and they were both pretty good. And so you're looking at a guy who's not only given the Twins a good chance to win, but a good chance to win against some of the, notoriously tougher lineups. Now, the Yankee lineup, of course, wasn't what it will be when the Twins face them again later this summer with all their injuries. But you go to Yankee Stadium and you pin up 6 shutout innings. That's pretty good.
No doubt. So if you have Barrios and then Odorizzi can do that, and then if Martin Perez can do this, my goodness, I mean, that's not – if you get 3 guys, we know that from the 87 and 91 world champions, that you can go a long ways with that.
Yeah, Perez has been a wonderful discovery for this organization, too. His recaptured velocity, the addition of a cutter, which has just absolutely blown up right-handed batters' bats. He's really been good against righties. And so we're anxious to see him and the rest of the rotation. I mean, just think where we're at, Derek. We're in a situation now where the Twins are in first place, and you look forward to the starting pitcher's next start instead of, kind of crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's maybe the most encouraging thing about the start for the Twins this year has been the starting pitching.
On Saturday, I thought, man, they're not going to get another win here after Jonathan Schoop. He got his home run robbed, but C.J. Cron and Nelson Cruz, they add some power. It's amazing just seeing these guys pick each other up with this power that they have. It's so much fun to watch.
Well, it's so far at a record-setting pace, of course, and you look at what this Twins team can do and the conditions under which they've done it so far, hitting all the home runs with, bitterly and brutally cold weather just about everywhere the Twins have played. I'm anxious to see what this lineup can do once the weather warms up and the ball flies a little bit farther, because it's been fun to watch. We've seen big home runs. We've seen big home runs late in games, and that really is going to be fun to watch if it continues for the balance of the season.
And with Miguel Sano coming up, I mean, it's really scary to think that you're going to have another power bat in that lineup.
Well, it'll be curious how he reacts to being called up whenever that is. I suspect that's still going to be a week or so out. But, the Twins have the luxury, because the lineup has been very productive. They've got the luxury of not rushing him. If the team was struggling to score runs like, say, the Indians and some other teams are, well, then there'd be some pressure, wouldn't there, to get Sano in the lineup and see if he can provide a spark. Well, the spark's already there. So the Twins have the luxury of being patient with Sano in the hopes that the extra time at AA and AAA will get his bat ready for when he does come up.
When you look at so many of these things, I think it's really interesting to see not just the big guys that we're talking about, but the other little things that are helping out. I mean, Byron Buxton may not be hitting the ball the way that Eddie Rosario was before his little cold snap here, or with what's going on with Nelson Cruz and all that, but I think he's an underrated guy. I mean, the fact that the lineup turns over with him, it seems like the ninth spot is really good for him. And he's a very underrated asset that we're not talking about as much as we probably should.
Yeah, I think, if you were to hypnotize Byron and ask him why he's doing so well, he'd probably confess that he's just going to do what he knows he can do. I think there was some interest, shall we say, in him using the whole field more, but in reality, he doesn't do much of that. He's a pull hitter. He was a pull hitter in the minor leagues, and now he's just decided, I'm going to pull the ball. And for as long as he hits the ball as hard as he hits it and, bangs him against the fence and occasionally over the fence, that'll work. I think there's some that still would like to see him, spray the ball around, and to that end, maybe the more he sees Nelson Cruz and Jonathan Scope and some of the other veterans do that, maybe he will get to that point. But you're right. His speed in the outfield is irreplaceable. One of the reasons the Twins struggled last year is he wasn't there in center field. But to be there, to be in center field for this major league club, he's got to produce some at the plate. And so far, he's done a nice job of that.
Well, one thing that's, with all these delays and everything, and when we talk about rain throughout much of the season, the good thing about Toronto tonight is that there's a roof. So we'll get the games in tonight and tomorrow, Wednesday, anyway.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The Twins have had really only one bad series this year, and that was the 4-game series with Toronto at Target Field a little while back. So the Twins would like to gain a little revenge on the Blue Jays in this series. And then, one thing that's really been nice to see, there's some teams that have winning records, but they've had streaky years like the Seattle Mariners. This Twins team has been consistently good. All the homestands and all the road trips have produced winning records so far. So we'll see if they can get that done here on this road trip. But as long as they keep, the old saying in baseball is win series and you'll get to the playoffs. But if you break the season down into road trips and homestands and you win them all, you have a winning record in all of them. I like your team's chances of getting into the playoffs then too. Yeah,
it's funny. My last thing for you, Dick, is going back to me watching this team in the 80s with Jimmy Key and some of those guys that they had, it's just outside of the 1991 American League Championship Series, I just have never looked forward to playing Toronto as a Twins fan.
Yeah, and I certainly can, can remember, the good teams that Toronto had. But, I think we were talking about streaky teams a moment ago. I think Toronto might be one of those streaky teams because they're in rebuild mode. They're going to have Marcus Stroman going tonight, and he's one of their veterans, and he may not finish the season with them because they're going with a youth movement. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but they've got, a couple of other young prospects that we might see before the end of the year. So you never know what you're going to get from a team like that, but hopefully the Twins can have a good series here.
Very good. Dick, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the call tonight up in the Great White North, and hopefully we can come away with some decent victories up in Canada.
Well, I'm up in Canada, and I'll be working with a Canadian, Justin Morneau, so we'll see how that mix works.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you again next Monday.
You got it, Derek.
Dick Bremer, the play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Twins, with us here on the Twins Weekend Wrap, sponsored by Jefferson Lines, your number one bus experience for over 100 years, serving North Dakota and cities throughout the Midwest. We'll wrap up the Drive Time News Hour. Twins baseball coming up shortly.